everybody. Welcome back to Glory Glory Man United podcast. And I'm your host, Kyle Quinn. And my co host, Brushy, is with me here today to dissect the bloodbath at Old Trafford on Sunday and talk about the consequences of such a devastating defeat to our arch rivals, Liverpool. Um, I'm not feeling any better, I'm afraid, 3 days later. Just as angry as what I was on Sunday, and my opinions are just as strong as what they were on Sunday. Yeah, I haven't really, even after calming down in the last 72 hours, I'm still feeling largely the same. So, Brush, how are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty much the same, mate. Yeah, I've calmed down a little bit in terms of how I would have spoke had we done this on the Sunday night or the Monday. But yeah, when we start thinking about it, I think the anger's still the same, really.
Apologies for the lateness of the podcast. I've been struggling to get a good Wi-Fi connection while I've been away on holiday, but I've finally got one here in Munich. So let's get into it. Manchester United were absolutely pumped by Liverpool. Um, three turnovers leading to three goals. Um, Something I want to talk about is the Casemiro situation. Now, he's obviously taken a lot of stick. He was at fault for two goals, and then he was substituted at half time for Toby Collier. Um, Now, whilst we know Casemiro is on the way down in his career, I do think that the manager is setting him up to fail. Um, Now, the biggest issue for me with United's setup with Ten Hag in charge is that you have the number six, then you have the two roaming number eights, and the two roaming number eights are so far apart from the number six. Um, Whether it be Casemiro or Manu, as it was for the third goal, and I think because the 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 number six has to play an extravagant pass if he wants to pass forward because the fullbacks are pushed up very high. So the only short pass he can play is back to his centre backs. So if he wants to go forward, he has to try a risky pass. We've seen that with the first goal. That's what he done, and he lost the ball, and we are immediately under pressure. You're getting Salah and Diaz in one-on-one situations, and we're in trouble. The second one, Diaz nicks the ball off him. He didn't have as much time on the ball as he thought he was. Again, Liverpool are pressing him. They're getting around the number six. And then we're under pressure again because so many players are out of position when we lose the ball in that area. And with the third goal, Manu, he's facing his own goal. And then you can see that Collier and Fernandez are miles away. He's got his back to goal. He's surrounded by four Liverpool players. He loses the ball. And then again, we're under so much pressure. We're outnumbered in the dangerous area, and it ends up with the ball in the back of the net. And we have to criticise Onana as well, whose positioning for the third goal was bizarre to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Too far towards one side of the goal, and Salah puts it in the opposite corner. I mean, Onana just doesn't really save anything, does he? But what are your thoughts then, Brush? Who do you think is to blame? Is it Casemiro, or is it the manager, or is it Onana, or is it all
So
three?
the third one, please. It's a collective effort, isn't it? As it so often is. Yet during the game, I was there with the majority of people where Casemiro had an absolute disaster class. I thought he was the best player on the pitch for Liverpool that first half. It was shocking stuff. And then in retrospect and watching it back, obviously, a calamity of errors. So it's not just him, it's us as a whole. And I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning there when you were talking about the tactics being set up for him to fail. And I couldn't agree more. Even a prime N'Golo Kante would struggle with how we set up. He would have to make the most of his third lung. So yeah, it's a lost clause really. Um, Obviously Mainu had mistakes as well, but again, just the spaces and the isolation, it just isn't working, is it? So yeah, all round, I just thought it was such a poor performance. And I think what hurt me the most as well is the fact that Liverpool didn't really have to get out of second gear. And then the post match, I'm sure we'll get into that as well. The post match breakdown and what was said that also annoyed me further. The way Arnie Slot stood there and broke down our simple tactics, and then Ten Hag's comments as well. It irritated me to no end. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I feel as if Casemiro is being set up to fail, and he's been saying that himself. This is what has been fed back to Andy Mitten of the Athletic
Hmm.
on his podcast. He said that last season, Casemiro felt that Man United's tactics were exposing his weaknesses and setting him up to fail. So that's very interesting as well. And I can see what he's talking about,
Yeah.
because our number six, whether it be Manu in the second half or Casemiro in the first half, they're they're very, very isolated, and clearly they were targeted by Liverpool,
Hmm.
and that resulted in 3 goals against us. Just very, very simple tactics from Arnie Slot, and ended up with the 3-0 defeat for United. And it's embarrassing that Ten Hag, who's in his third season, was humiliated by a Dutch manager in his third game in the Premier League. That's a damning indictment, isn't it, Brush?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, we've spoke quite pragmatically on this podcast, and said and understand that things take time and whatnot. But what we will not accept is in the third season, after well over 500 million spent, is to get bopped off the park by our bitter rivals time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many defeats now to Liverpool. I've just lost count, really. I heard a stat on the Athletic podcast that United have won just one of their last 13
Mm.
league meetings against Liverpool. That is absolutely shocking, isn't it?
And generally speaking, against any of the top sides, our record is not great.
Yeah, it is so poor. And to be honest, the disappointment is even greater with this one because I actually felt that we would win this game or at least not
Mm.
lose it. Because in the last couple of games against Liverpool at Old Trafford, we'd done really well. I think um, Ten Hag in his third game in charge of United, we beat Liverpool at Old Trafford in the FA Cup last season. We beat them. We drew in the
Yeah.
league with them last season at Old Trafford. So I thought United would at least draw this game, if not win it. So it was not.
And also after what happened at Anfield, you know which time I'm talking about. After that, I assumed that he understood the mission. Like this is not a game in which, we can get caught out in any which way. So I assumed that the instructions would be, accordingly. How many times, even when they were absolutely rubbish, did Fergie go there, or when we played them at Old Trafford, set up very pragmatic, and just grinded out results. Nothing fancy, just made sure we were solid and hard to beat. And that's all
Yeah,
just gone out the window.
I feel as if people are misremembering what happened in the Fergie era. Some people like to believe that we played swashbuckling, attacking football all the time. No, we didn't.
No, no.
Um,
We did that against the teams that we should have beat. Everyone in the bottom half of the table, absolutely. But then against the big boys or our close rivals, he was very smart. And quite often in these games, it was the Phil Nevilles and John O'Shea's and people like that that were the stars, and not the ones that you expect.
yeah, quite often we would play defensively against Liverpool under Fergie and get results,
Yeah.
win games 1-0, draw one each or whatever. And, the team sheet was always a surprise. You'd get big names being left out. You
Hmm.
get five midfielders and one up front, and we'd get results that way. And at the moment, that's what we should be doing against them because we are not ready to go toe to toe against Liverpool. This is a ready-made side who've been competing at the top of the league with the toppest honours for a number of years now. And we are still a struggling side who finished eighth in the Premier League last season.
Hmm.
I think it was Ollie who himself said in a press conference when he was manager that you know winning domestic cups can sometimes mask the fact that you're still struggling in the league, and I think United
Yeah.
are a perfect example of that at the moment. Ten Hag
Definitely.
keeps
At the time when
referencing,
he said that, though, like, they didn't really listen to that part of it. They just focused more on the trophies are for egos thing, and kind of cut out what the real message of what he was trying to get at, which was this
yeah,
about it potentially masking problems.
we can certainly see now what he means because last season we finished eighth in the Premier League. We were knocked out of the Champions League in the group stage. Yet Ten
Yeah.
Hag, anytime a journalist, asks him a question now, he harks back to the fact that he won the League Cup and the FA Cup at Manchester United,
Hmm.
and he thinks everything's going swimmingly, that everything's hunky dory. I don't subscribe to that view at all. I don't think 99% of the fan base do either. I think we're getting a bit fed up with Ten Hag's excuses, especially after mauling like that at home to Liverpool. You
Definitely.
mentioned
And
there,
you know me, I've never really been manager out and any of that. I've always said that even this season, it's up to Ineos what they want to do. And they've obviously, spoke to Tuchel over the summer and then decided to continue with him. So, it's one of those. And I always felt that it will be interesting to see how he operates with proper structure above him. But on the pitch, there are a lot that is to be desired. And we need to see changes and adaptability, but that word doesn't really go with Ten Hag, does it? Based on what we've seen so far.
yeah, and as you say, on each slot. Some managers are not happy to talk about their tactics after a game because they don't want to give it away, maybe in
Hmm.
case they need to use it again. But he's one of those managers who's happy to talk about it. And it was embarrassing, how he was able to stand there and dissect how easily he was
Yeah.
able to take apart Manchester United. And then you have our manager, again talking about winning the FA Cup last season, and nobody wants to hear that anymore. He doesn't like questions at all after defeats now. He's just going to keep
Mm.
harking back to the FA Cup win last season.
And also, cups are different to the league. The league is your bread and butter. That's where we want to really see improvement because that's the true measure of how far you've come. Cup runs can happen in one-off games. Anything can happen, but this is really where we need to improve.
Yeah, Ten Hag, when asked by a journalist if his system forces United into individual errors, which is a reasonable question by Ian Ladyman of the Daily Mail, and he says, Ten Hag says, "You are sure? Question mark. I don't think so. Or you wouldn't win trophies like we did and to beat big opponents. I'm sorry for you. On City, we won the most trophies. I'm sorry for you. It's not like I'm Harry Potter. That is what you have to acknowledge." Um, yeah, so he says he's not Harry Potter, and that United have won the second most number of trophies in the last two
Mhm.
seasons after Manchester City. These are not the right words to be saying after a humiliating defeat to your arch rivals at home.
Yeah, he's just gone into defense mode, hasn't he? So I think that's what it is. But yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah, and
simply
Arnie
not good
Slot
enough.
on how Liverpool beat United, he says last season there were man marking on the midfield and they had a press with the 7 and 11, the wingers. So with the striker and one of the wingers jumped up with him. This season they are more like a 9 out of 10 press. So they're more in a 4-4-2. So that's different, of course. I see them, in my opinion, working harder if the ball is being played through them. So they run more. That's at least what I saw in the first games. Their
Mhm.
style is also, this is maybe last season, I don't remember that well, but their fullbacks, 9 out of 10 times, they're really high. And then Casemiro comes in between. So if you pick up the ball and you can keep Diaz and Mo Salah high, then you're constantly in a one-on-one situation. So yeah, he knew exactly. He watched United against Brighton and against Fulham, and he knew what we were going to
Mhm.
do, and he instructed his team to take advantage of our weaknesses, and they did ruthlessly, and we were humiliated home.
Absolutely. Listen, I thought Ipswich gave her a tougher game than we did,
Yeah, they
and
did.
that's telling. That's really telling. The guy who's managing Brighton, he's what 31 years old. Uh, yeah, I've seen some decent stuff from him. Yeah, it's simply not good enough at this stage.
And I know it's very early days for Slot, but of course Liverpool would get a Dutch manager and they win 3 out of 3 in his first
Mm-hmm.
games.
Mm-hmm.
And Ten
And
Hag definitely didn't do that.
even with their supposed failed window, he still manages to get a tune out of what he has. Gravenberch, playing a different role now and seamlessly getting a tune out of him.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, what about the disallowed goal where Gravenberch had acres of space to run into?
Hmm.
Our midfield, big hole in it again, and Alexander Arnold did the ball over the line,
And how long did it take
disallowed
us
for
to play
offside.
direct and actually like get balls into the box even? You know, uh,
Yeah,
our senior player Marcus Rashford, I thought overall had a very poor game. There were two chances though that he did create, which I will give him credit for. He put two lovely balls into the box. At
Yeah.
least for one of them, Xerxes has to finish. There's not much else to say. He has to finish.
Yeah, he he wasn't ruthless enough on the day, but we'll give him a bye ball because
No.
he's a young striker.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
he's new, and also, I mean, he's not known for his goals. You know, he's not prolific. His best season ever in terms of a goal return was last season, and he scored 12. You know,
no, this is why I felt United should have signed Victor Osimhen in the summer. Now
listen, that
Galatasaray,
that one, because I know that there was people that wanted Ivan Tony. I wasn't too sure about that one. The way the transfer window closed out, yeah, hearing that news about Osimhen going on loan to Galatasaray, was there an opportunity there? As far as I know, there was no loan fee, no obligation or option to buy. All they're doing is covering his wages, which I think is quite high. But still, who wouldn't take Victor Osimhen on loan for a year if he could?
yeah, it's not as if we haven't done that before with a striker or two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've
Uh,
got Sancho's wages leaving as well. So, would it really have been a stretch if we were in the conversation? Also, who knew? Who knew you couldn't go into a season without an out and out left back?
yeah, that's going to become a major issue if Luke Shaw doesn't play a lot more
Yeah,
games this season.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to get into some of the comments, and Mickey here says, "Has Rashford got Ten Hag's family somewhere tied up and holding them hostage? How's he
Ah,
starting every week? It's madness." Yeah, I totally agree with that. Sure, we've talked about
yeah.
that many times on this
Yeah,
show,
we've
and
spoken about that before this game, haven't we? On the need for him to be dropped, and for Garnacho to start on that side.
yeah, and of course when Garnacho comes in, Ahmad is the one who drops out. So predictable,
Hmm.
Ten Hag.
Yeah,
Box here says, remember the days under Jose and Ole when Salah was pocketed by RC Young every game? Yes, there
mm.
was a few years there where he never scored against United.
Hmm.
And now I think he is, s- since the start of 2021, he is the fifth top goal scorer at Old Trafford.
It's
Can you believe
absolute
that?
disgusting. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that list. Yeah, the rest United players, the number fifth on the list, Mo Salah, most goals at OT. Disgusting.
So I think ahead of him are Ronaldo, Rashford, McTominay, and Bruno. And then
Yeah,
Salah has scored the fifth number of goals at Old Trafford in the last 4 years
madness.
or so. Crazy.
Absolute madness.
I've never heard a stat like that in my life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, we seem to be good at that. We seem to be good at creating all
breaking
kinds of
records.
horrible stats. Yeah, breaking all the wrong records in recent years.
Yeah, and Kenny here, who is a new subscriber to the Glory Glory My Night podcast, welcome Kenny, and he seems to be a fan of yours, Brush. He says he's joined because you're here, and you're here
Okay.
quite often. Um, so he obviously likes your analysis. Box here says, I want Ten Hag to be the guy to bring us back, but he's too stubborn and delusional. Yes, absolutely. It would be great if a manager who's now won both domestic cups was to go on and win the league and the Champions League at United, but I just don't see it happening with Ten Hag. I mean, and I've talked about this before. Only three managers in history have won the league title at Manchester United. It is enormously difficult
Hmm.
to achieve that. It's probably now more than ever because the Premier League it's so hard to win the league. There's teams who've got 90, who finished with 97 points and haven't won the league. Um, so
I
I
mean, just
just
look at
don't.
last year, Carl. I mean, City didn't drop a point after Christmas, did they?
No,
And Arsenal were near enough perfect, 89 points, and they still couldn't get it done. So those are the levels now. So a defeat
yeah,
in Christmas could end your title hopes. You know how crazy
Arsenal
that is?
between Christmas and the end of the season, Arsenal lost to Aston Villa at home, and that cost them the title.
Yeah.
That was the only points they dropped, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, s- and that's how hard it is to win the league. I do not see our Ten Hag being the man to get us over the line. I don't. What do you think, Rush?
At this moment in time, it does look quite bleak, doesn't it? I don't want to give up on him entirely, but adaptability is the main thing. And again, we can only judge based on what we've seen thus far, and he's shown just stubbornness, really. What annoys me is that we've kind of gone backwards a little bit because in the last two games of last season, he did show he can be adaptable when he really wants to be. because against Brighton and Man City, he finally turned it around, and we had a midfield. And this season, we're getting ran through the middle again. Obviously, Ugarte's come in, so we'll have to see how he settles in. But even there, I have some questions, because as much as I love that kind of midfielder, a destroyer who's going to come in and protect the back four and get stuck in, because we're lacking that bit of bite at midfield, especially since Ander Herrera left. I don't think that's something we've had since him. But when I look at the style of play of Eric Ten Hag, I fail to see how this profile of midfielder suits him, unless he plans to then push Kobe further up. But again, we have to keep in mind that he's only 19 years old. We can't run him into the ground.
So there has been strong rumours that Ten Hag didn't really want Ugarte and had to be persuaded in that one, and
Mm.
wanted to keep Scott McTominay. And after the game, he said Ugarte might not play for weeks or even months. So that's an extraordinary thing to say,
Uh,
really.
that's insane. I guess time will tell. Didn't hear those comments. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. Um, hmm.
Yeah, but we've seen this before with Ten Hag. He did it with Casemiro himself.
He did,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, I had PTSD with that, with how much he was leaving Cass out first month or two. Because I was like, oh, I've seen this before. It was the same when Donny came in under Rolly, and we just didn't see him. Like, all summer we were told, oh, he was close to joining Real Madrid. Oh, this is a real coup. Even though a few of us were scratching our heads, going, I don't really see how he fits in. But we saw it as squad depth, and we just didn't see him. But yeah, Ugart, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for us, really. But yeah, when I look at what Ten Hag's doing, surely he needed more of a progressor. Someone with a bit of technical ability. And I keep going back to it, actually, and it's kind of funny because we played Liverpool last summer. Gravenberch was there for the taking. This is the guy that he used once Frankie left. So I was really surprised with his tendency to go back to Holland and to Ajax, that was one of the players that he picked up. It would have been very reasonably priced too.
yeah, another thing that I've noticed is that the players from the Eredivisie that have come to United under Ten Hag, most of them have struggled. Yet
Yeah.
players that played under Ten Hag at Ajax that went elsewhere look really good.
From Kudus to
Yeah,
Edson Alvarez. All the ones that didn't come to us but went elsewhere. Yeah, yeah. Gravenberch. To be honest, I was surprised we didn't pick him up from Ajax directly. But then he had that dodgy season at Bayern Munich, and he was there again. And I was like, oh, well, the opportunity's presented itself again, and it wasn't to be. And now look, showing his versatility.
yeah, and as Kenny says here, why did Ten Hag revert back to a 3-1-6 formation when the 4-2-4
Yeah.
formation was working? Yeah, I mean,
Who knows?
this attacking overload is absolute madness. You're just going to get caught out by
Hmm.
even mid-table teams. You're going to catch you out, because they're just going to target you as number 6 when he's on the ball. And and
Exactly.
Ten- and Ten Hag's just not a man who learns from his mistakes. Um,
Clearly. I mean,
you know,
again, it's the third season, Carl. Listen, hundreds of millions spent. We look at the table, not even just the league position. Look at the goal difference. We're already what, -3, yeah, after 3 games.
oh yeah, we're back to the minus goal difference again. Unbelievable.
Do you know how crazy that is with the amount of money we spent in the third season, and we're here hoping for a positive goal difference? Like, do you know how insane that is?
Yeah, and nothing much has changed. Yes, the reason why he won the cup final is because he adopted a completely different system. United were
Hmm.
compact in the FA Cup final, made it difficult for the opposition. They're not doing that at the moment. But one thing I will say is that United looked better against Fulham and Brighton because Mason Mount was in the team. I felt they looked more compact, more difficult to
Hmm.
play through. The press was so much better. Mason Mount leads the press.
And that's one thing he offers in abundance as well. Marathon mount, I like to call him. Just legs for days, and we haven't got anyone that can do that kind of dog work without him.
Yeah, and I was saying that, you know, we're more of a goal threat when Xerxes on the pitch, but we lose our compactness in midfield when Mount goes off. But we had neither against Liverpool. We had you know we had no goal threat and no press or
Hmm.
compact midfield. It was the worst of all worlds really in that game. Um, so, but you alluded to it already. Xerxes missed chances in the
Yeah.
game, and you know if you have a striker like Victor Osimhen in his prime there,
Hmm.
okay, even if he scored twice, United still wouldn't have got anything from the game. But a striker like that, who's world class and in his prime, he will turn defeats into draws and draws into wins.
And also,
So
it's about momentum, isn't it? So even if you're down, if you get a goal or two back, it can swing the game. If you get goals
yeah,
at key times, it can switch momentum.
yeah, psychologically, yeah, it can
Yeah.
change the game. Yeah. Um. So to me, United should be going after it. Like I like Jasper Xerxes. I want him to do well. I want him to develop into a top class forward. But United should be going after the best striker available in Europe, and they didn't do that. We've talked about this already. He decided to bring in another youngster when we have a young striker. That's not what we need. You know, we need a top class centre forward who's going to get 20 goals. If we have serious ambitions of being in
I
the top
think I think it
four,
was probably one of those where the opportunity presented itself, right? And if we didn't act, it looked as if he was set for AC Milan. So they looked at the numbers and thought, this is a good deal. We got to get it done now to beat off competition. Because if he does develop, then in another year or two, that price is going to skyrocket. So I think it's one
but
of those ones.
let's say Hoyland and Xerxes are unbelievable forwards in a couple of years' time. That's too late for Ten Hag. He's going to be gone by
Yeah,
then. You
absolutely.
know.
Yeah, he is. You need to strike that right balance, don't you, between experience and youth. But with Ineos though, like as far as first transfer windows go, I haven't got too many complaints to be honest. They've got so much to fix and undo from the old regime, and as first windows go, I was relatively happy. The only thing that would have made me happier is a proper left back, and it didn't even have to be a first teamer. I would have been happy with just a loan signing. I just thought it was incredibly naive for us to go into yet another season with just Shaw and Malasia as the out and out left back options, considering their injury history. We don't even know what's happened to Malasia.
I imagine right now United are already scouting left backs around the globe. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that's going to be the priority signing next summer. Uh, the
I'll tell you what, Carl, for next summer, they've got a big decision on their hands because obviously now you've cleared Sancho off the book, so that's those wages gone. And then after this season, you're going to have to look at Anthony and Rashford. They're going to be the two. That's the big decision that they have to make. I can see at least one of them being moved on. And so, next summer, you've got a chance to really transform that attack.
yeah, absolutely. Rashford's still not pulling his weight, and
Yeah.
we need to look at that situation again next summer. Albeit he's going to be very, very difficult to shift, and the same with
Hmm.
Anthony.
But
Um,
again, I'll tell you what gives me a little bit of confidence is that depending on how they do and whatnot, obviously, but the ruthlessness they showed in getting rid of Sancho, I actually thought the fee itself was a bit short. I thought we could have got a bit more, but it showed also a certain level of ruthlessness, which I like, and I think that can come in handy because if that's how we're going to continue, then I don't think they'll haggle too much and they'll make the necessary changes in getting rid of people like Rashford and Anthony if they can, if it means they can bring in better. And they should, because if those two underperform this season, then it's curtains. And we should be targeting the likes of Cavaschelli at Napoli. I'd like to see us linked with the likes of Nico Williams, players of that sort of ilk. Um, Obviously, people will say it's a bit of Euro hype and whatnot, but he's the up and coming thing, and we should always be in the market for the next big thing. You know,
well, to be fair to Jason Wilcox, he's doing enormous work with bringing in some of the top youngsters around the world. and
Hmm.
some of them already at United, and some of them are yet to arrive. There's that young player in who's causing a big stir. He done really well in the youth games against Man City and Liverpool recently. He has an Italian name. Is it? He's everybody's talking about him on social media. This young player, this young talent has been amazing for the youth team, and I think it was I think Wilcox might have brought him to the club. So
Okay.
he
I
could
mean,
be.
there have been a lot of youth arrivals. The young striker we picked up from Arsenal, Chido Obi Martins. He comes with quite the reputation. Very young though. And the midfielder that we picked up as well, Mali midfielder. He's only 18. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's difficult to remember the names of youngsters. They're just not that famous at the moment, you know.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but there's a youngster. I think he has a very Italian name, but apparently he's Welsh. Um,
I mean,
th-
he could be a Joel Calzaghe type.
yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
probably got Italian roots as well.
yeah. Gabriele Bay Bayant Uri, yeah, something like that. Yeah, he's
Okay.
17 years old, born in 2006. Uh, he is a Welsh forward who plays for Manchester United and the Wales under 19s, and he has been turning it up apparently for
Mm.
United's one of United's youth teams. Everybody's been talking about him today. He scored, was it 5 goals across 2 games against City and Liverpool?
Wow.
So
I'll have to check those out. I've not seen it.
yeah, so that's one to watch as well. So as my main point is there that Wilcox is doing amazing work on signing youth
Hmm.
players, and but as I've alluded to already, this is not going to benefit Ten Hag. He's going to be gone by the time all this will he
No,
benefit from all
it's
this,
going
you
to be
know.
too late for him. If he wants to save his job, then he's got to be, pragmatic and adaptable and stop being so stubborn.
Yeah, I think for him, every Premier League manager knows what he's going to do,
Mm.
and they have a plan. And this is why even last season we were struggling against some of the worst teams in the league and getting beat by them and drawn to them, conceding 30 shots.
Hmm.
And this looks to be more of the same. Now, Liverpool was a must win, and we didn't win, obviously. Southampton is an even more of a must win. I think we are in the territory now that now we've 2 defeats in the first 3 matches. He will
Yep.
survive because we have made a number of Dutch signings, and they don't want to sack a manager after three games into the season after they give him a vote of confidence in the summer.
Hmm.
But if we continue to lose games at this rate, they will have no choice only to get rid of him.
I mean, yeah, listen, obviously we know that they only exercise their option for that 1 year, uh, instead of giving him fresh terms like we've seen in the past with Oli and Jose, who then went on to get sacked like 6 months later. So yeah, already we know that they're kind of on the fence and they're also watching intently as we are. But yeah, like you say, if it really goes against him and we go on a terrible run, I suspect probably Van Nistelrooy will come in and step in as the interim.
Yeah, that seems like the obvious choice. Or they could bring
Yeah.
in Thomas Tuchel, but and that he's been
Hmm.
linked again. But sure, he interviewed for the job in the summer in Monaco, and it didn't seem to go well with the
Mm.
hierarchy there. So maybe not. But as long as it's not Gareth Southgate, I know I'll be reasonably happy. Um, and he's unemployed at the moment, which is concerning some fans. Uh, but I don't think United will be stupid enough to go
No,
down that road.
no, I don't think. Yeah, or touch wood. I hope not. Anyway.
Yeah, and by the way, there was a interview that came out, a joint interview that Ashworth and Omar Barada did with Sammy Luckhurst and maybe a few other journalists, and they gave the manager a vote of confidence, saying that he's our guy, and they're very much backing him. But this was a misleading interview because people thought it was given after the Liverpool game. This
Yeah, it was
interview was
before,
given
wasn't it?
before the Liverpool game.
Yeah, yeah.
So that context is important. Um, Now I'm not saying that they're gonna sack him during this international break, but it's another black mark against his name that he's lost. Like, we have already lost two games and we played just three matches this season. We're already on the minus goal difference and we've already been thrashed by one of our rivals. This isn't different to last season, is it? It's exactly the
No.
same.
Hmm.
So for those people out there who have an emotional attachment to Ten Hag, I would start getting concerned because every game now is a
I'd
must win.
yeah, and I'd suggest you have an emotional attachment to the club because nobody's bigger than the club. You
Yeah,
know, players, managers, everybody else comes and goes.
there's certain people out there, and you see them online, and even people I know in person, they just will not accept the fact that Ten Hag is not good enough to be Manchester United manager, and they keep saying back to the manager, back to the manager. He's our guy. He's won the FA Cup. He's won the League Cup, and you're like, no, I. The evidence is clear that he is struggling in this role, and he
Hmm.
is teetering on the brink. And I already decided back in May that he wasn't the guy, and I'm even more convinced now after the start of the season. So people keep saying that we're only three games into a new season, but this is Ten Hag's third season, and he needed to have a good start after any of us were interviewing candidates in the summer, and eventually give activated the plus one in his contract. They didn't even give him a new contract, so they're not
Hmm.
that confident in him. So he needs to win games and fast, or he's going to be out of here.
He most definitely does. Obviously, there are a lot of changes. You know, when new players come in, it does time to bed them in. I mean, the fact that Ugarte's just arrived now, like he's not even part of it yet. So yeah, we have to take all these things into consideration. But the thing for me is, there's a manner in which you lose. So that's what makes me the unhappiest. Because I'm willing to wait. You just have to show me that we are headed somewhere.
Yeah. Do you see if we lost at 3-2 at the weekend and it was a reasonably good performance and we took our chances, but we made a couple of errors and we lost a couple of goals and we lost to, let's face it, a superior team. Then I could take that on the chin and accept the fact that we are work in progress, but we were just absolutely battered off the pitch again, and we
Yeah.
were beaten with a whimper. So uh,
And that's the thing. Like, they didn't really have to break a sweat, did they? Like, it's not like they really worked hard for that win.
yeah, and
And
we're
then the
just
third goal, I mean, the goalkeeper, what can we say about him, eh, that we haven't already said?
yeah, his positioning is atrocious.
Yeah,
I don't rate him at all. That's a really, really poor signing.
yeah, yeah. And again, you look at the finances involved. We plundered what 47 million into it. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
and the goalkeeper that we preferred, I think both of us preferred, was Diogo Costa, and he
Mm,
still has that 75 million euro release clause. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
how are we going to pay that when we've just spent 47 million on
Hmm.
Onana? You know,
No, it's not going to
uh,
happen. I mean, I do think eventually they'll all look for somebody else. I think we're going to be with Anana for at least another season, but at the end of next season, they'll probably look at that. But yeah, but this time round, I expect them to do their due diligence and do some scouting and spend moderately.
yeah. If clearly this must have been a Ten Hag led decision to bring Onana in last summer, because if there was proper scouting and analysis on
Mm,
his season in Inter, you would have seen
you would have seen
umpteenth
that.
mistakes
Yep.
that he made during that season. Okay, they won the league and got to the Champions League final, and he had a good game in the final, which they lost. But
Also, the fact that just the season before he was a free agent.
yeah, and Inter couldn't believe their luck. They managed to get a dodgy goalkeeper on a free and then sell him for a massive profit after one
And they
year.
replaced him with Jan Sommer for about 6 or 7 million.
Yeah, and as Jan Sommer's probably one of the people I'm about to allude to. There's about a
Hmm.
hundred goalkeepers in Europe I'd rather have than Andre Onana. I'm not
Yeah,
exaggerating or being dramatic,
yeah,
and
yeah.
David De Gea is probably one of them as well.
Mm.
I know somebody posted up a clip of him making a save at Fiorentina. I'm thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I would love to have him back instead of Onana.
I mean, listen, I won't sugarcoat it. Like we can't look through rose-tinted lenses. It probably was time for Dave to move on. Although I was disgusted by the way he was treated at the end. And yeah, we did need to move on from him. But yeah, you have to look at goalkeeping fundamentals, man. For me, I'm old school. I like goalkeepers that know how to save. I'm not too fussed about all of this passing out from the back nonsense. Obviously, it's a nice attribute to have additionally, but if your goalkeeping fundamentals aren't there, you're going to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, Ten Hag or not Ten Hag. Onana can't save a screenshot, so there's absolutely no point to getting rid of David De Gea and bringing in Onana. And this so-called modern goalkeepers who are brilliant with the ball at their feet, I haven't seen much of that at all from Onana. And if anything, he takes too many risks when he's on the ball, and gives it away, and then he has to make a tackle, or the ball ends up in the back of the net. And
Hmm.
I haven't seen too many, you know, crossfield balls that have led to goals from Manana, like you see Addison sometimes do for Manchester City. There's been the net benefit of swapping Onana for swapping De Gea for Onana has been probably not even zero, and -5. At least with De Gea might not have been Ten Hag's cup of tea because he can't do anything with his feet, but at least to be saving shots. I mean, as you say, it's the fundamentals that count, and
Yeah,
Onana is dreadful in my opinion. There's some people um who do YouTube and podcasts, and they will tell you that Onana is a sensational goalkeeper, and they don't understand the criticism. Well, I'd love to have some of whatever they're on, because
hmm,
I'm clearly watching a different game. Yeah, he needs to be moved on as well. For me, the next United team that wins the title will not contain Onana, Dallo, or Marcus Rashford, and that might be
we're
brutal,
so
but I have
far
to be
from
honest.
it, Carl. I can't even fathom title run.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's probably at least 5 years, and that's if we get everything right.
Yeah, if all the stars align,
But just want to be challenging for it again. I don't. I just want to support a United that's not freaking 30 points off it every year. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. That's the thing. I don't even think we asked for too much. Well, not the more sensible ones of us in the fan base. We know that these things take time, but we should be working towards, those top European positions at the very least.
Yeah, as I said, it's very hard to win the Premier League on the Champions League, but so I
Yeah,
just want to be challenging. If we're like Arsenal, we're struggling to get over the line.
yeah.
That's okay. I'd rather be in Arsenal's position than
And
ours.
even then, I mean, look at how much money they've spent and where they are. And you say he's struggling to get over the line. They got 89 points last season. The season before, 89 points won the league. So year upon year, Arteta's improving, and it's still not good enough. You know?
Yeah, Ten Hag might be bragging about the cups that he's won, but Arsenal's points tally has been increasing year on year, and they're seemingly getting closer.
Even in the back-to-back eighth place things, because I know people like to do comparisons, but even in those back-to-back eighth places, every year upon year, Arteta has got more points than the previous season.
You can't say
Ultimately,
that.
you can look at what you have to look at what it amounts to. Obviously, trophies uh, do the talking, but it's a problem.
Yep. If Ortada eventually wins the title, then it was all worth it. But the thing is, for me, is the FA Cup and the League Cup's all great on the day, but when you finish in eighth in the league, these things kind of mask just how bad you are in reality. Um,
Hmm.
at least Arsenal might not. They won the FA Cup in 2020, of course, and they haven't won anything since. But they're getting closer and closer to winning the league. Seemingly, that to me is a far better position than what we were in under Ten Hag. Um, I agree with what Solskjaer said. Winning cups can sometimes mask the fact that you're struggling, and we are struggling big time.
Hmm.
And Ten Hag is going to pay for this with his job, and I'm amazed he's even still here. To be honest, we were after Crystal Palace in May. We thought this guy's a goner. But to me, it seems as if they made an emotional decision to keep him on the basis of winning that FA Cup final. That's It's okay if fans don't want rid of a manager because he won the FA Cup against your arch rivals. But the board are not allowed to get emotional like that or give in to fan sentiment. They're supposed to make ruthless, business-like decisions that
Hmm.
are that are best for the football club, and they didn't. They kept the manager against all the odds, and it's
We say that though, Carl, but I mean, they did speak to other managers, so there clearly has been some kind of process. They've not blindly just backed him because otherwise, I think we would have ended up in a situation like before, where the likes
but
of Jose and Oli
he,
got 3-year
he,
extensions.
here's my question to you: if the only reason to keep a manager is because you couldn't find one who you felt was better, is that a good enough reason to keep the manager you have?
Uh, in terms of continuity, I guess. Also, if you're unsure, but if you think that because you understand also that he worked under an absolute nonsense before, if you think that you can now, provide that stability and see an improvement, then I don't see why not. Because I'm sure they would have sat him down and spoken to him as well, right? And made it very clear to him that what they expect and what can
Well,
happen if those targets aren't met.
well, the fact that they interviewed other managers, they didn't give him a new deal. They just activated the plus one and kept him on the same
Mm.
wages. It's hardly a ringing endorsement, was it?
No, but that also goes to show that he's got a lot to prove to them as well, and they're not entirely convinced. But they're buying themselves some time.
And they might have to act quicker than they anticipated this season,
Hmm.
because
Depending on how it goes, and I'll tell you what, the one thing as well they probably looked at is probably the fact that the youngsters in the squad, the likes of the Hoyland, the Garnachos, the Mainus, they're his players, you know, and they probably thought if we were to upset the apple cart and bring in an interim for a year, would that destabilize things?
I suppose that's where Van Nistelrooy comes in, with making all these kind of Dutch-based signings or players who've been schooled in Holland. If you decide to dismiss Ten Hag and bring in Van Nistelrooy as an interim, then you
Hmm.
still have a Dutch manager there who will want to work with these players. I guess you'd
Mm.
think. So I'm a bit of a cynic at times, and other people are reading into this as well. That I think that definitely Ruud van Nistelrooy is the plan B if everything goes to pot this season.
Mm.
Uh, I don't think he'll be permanent manager of Van Nistelrooy
No.
unless he's sensational
But then
as coach.
do we want to fall into that trap again if it were to come to that?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, probably not, to be honest. Some people, you know, they become revisionists, and online today I've seen people calling for Ollie to come back. They say that
Jeez.
Ollie under Ineos would be tremendous at United and he would win the
Mm.
Premier League and the Champions League. Well, if Ollie's so great, why has he been unemployed since he was sacked by Man United?
Hmm. Yeah, that's the
That would
thing.
be my question.
And again, he was set up to fail. It was a position that he wasn't qualified for, that he never should have got in the first place. Uh, you know, it was one of those. And obviously, we
Yeah,
all wanted to
definitely.
succeed. I mean, we want every manager to succeed, but especially him because of what he means to us as a player.
Yeah, I would only want Van Nistelrooy as an interim, really, unless he was to, you know, do something extraordinary,
Incredible.
which would be difficult if you're taking over a sinking ship. It would be
Yeah.
immensely difficult. Um, so I'm going to give you the short straw and ask you to do some player ratings this week for a change.
Uh-oh.
Um, So Andre Onana, what would you give him?
Ah, this is not going to be nice. I thought they were all collectively terrible. Um, I think the easiest way I can do this is maybe look at if there was any redeeming qualities that I saw in players. Um, and you've probably seen some of this stuff online as well. I didn't think Delit was too bad. I thought he was all right, which is kind of mad to say considering we conceded three. Um, but to be thrown in at the deep end as well at Liverpool, because that was another question. I think we spoke about that last week, didn't we? I wasn't sure if that was the right move to throw him in this game out the cold.
So we'll get to Delict in a second, but
Yep.
Onana, what are you saying out of 10 then?
Four.
It's generous.
This is
uh,
probably generous. You know me, I don't like to go really, really low. I see sort of the bare minimum as like a five, and anything below that is, it's poor, right?
so I'm going to talk about Mazarahi and Dallo here. They were well out of position
Yes.
for one of the goals, but to me, it's not. That's not necessarily their fault because they're being instructed to do that. But what I
Hmm.
will say is, I think it was the second goal. Brilliant first time finish from Diaz, but Dallo just got nowhere near Salah. He just gave him far too much room. You know, he just kind of backs
Hmm.
off and backs off. Horrendous. So what about the fullbacks? What would you give them?
Five for the fullbacks.
Generous again.
Generous.
Uh,
You know
now,
what? They probably deserve a 40. It just felt bad, like putting them on the same rating as Anana, because as you say,
yeah.
I do think they were set up to fail. You know.
Well, Dallo. Let's take into account that is he's directly up against Salah. Salah got two
Yeah.
assists and a goal, so
Yeah.
that does not reflect well on
It
Diogo Dallo.
doesn't. Yeah. Yeah. Even
Um,
five's probably too generous, and I probably should give that for. Ah.
yeah. So Mateus de Ligt, a lot of supporters felt he had a decent game despite the
Yeah.
3-0
Yeah.
loss.
Yes, I think you know what. Yeah, on retrospect, yeah, give the fullbacks four as well. Give Dillit five. I can't give him more than five because obviously, even though he put in a half decent performance, overall it's very poor.
On Martinez, he hasn't had the strongest start of the season, I must say.
No, he hasn't. He's not looked great at all this season. I was hoping for much better actually because he had a very good tournament, the Copa America. He wasn't dribbled past in the tournament. He played really well. But again, do you think that might have contributed as well to his slow start? Maybe he's tired from that. Maybe I'm looking for excuses. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know really, but he's not been great. So what do you think his score was against Liverpool?
Ah, four. Delit was the best of a bad bunch. Martinez, yeah, didn't cover himself in glory.
So Casemiro, this should be an easy one.
Ah, Jesus.
You have
This
to
is
go
where
very low now.
yeah, based on how I've been doing it, I was going to say three, but that's probably too generous for him. And again, we do have to caveat it by saying I think the manager definitely
Set him up
did
to
not
fail.
help him at all. Yeah, just set him up to
And
hang himself, and he did. Poor
and
guy.
and Manu the same in the second half. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Manu
exactly. So what we saying, a two for Cass, if that,
and Cubby,
probably a zero, isn't it? If I'm being really honest.
zero
Uh,
for Casemiro. Yeah,
Zero for Cass, yeah, yeah. Kobe slightly higher, like a two. And again, yeah, it's very unfortunate for the young man.
yeah. I think it's not often they give out zeros, but I think Casemiro's 45 minutes warrants a zero.
Absolute disaster class, wasn't it? And then his missus didn't help matters either. I know, obviously, she did what anyone would, to protect family, but the posting all his trophies and stuff, yeah, didn't doesn't really
Yeah,
make a difference
yeah.
to that performance,
t- Tone deaf.
Ah,
Bruno Fernandes.
in a game like this as well, where you'd expect your captain to step up again, four.
Yeah, disappointing start of the season from
Hmm.
him as well. Marcus Rashford did have a poor game overall, but did create those chances for
He
Xerxes.
did. That was the only redeeming quality for Marcus overall. I thought he had a very poor game. I don't think he had a shot on goal. Um, correct me if I'm
Shocking.
wrong. I don't think he had a direct shot. But yeah, those two balls that he put into the box for Xerxes, they were good. At least one of them absolutely should have been a goal. If you're being very critical, you should, would say that both of them could and should have been goals. So on another day, at least on the stat sheet, he would have, looked better. It should have been one or two assists. Had things gone his way in the first game of the season as well, he would have got an assist. Had Garnacho finished, so it's one of those. But then the stats sometimes would just masquerade the overall performance. And I thought he was very poor. So four
So,
for him.
okay. Alejandro Garnacho.
Ah, mm-mm, mm-mm. Four for him too.
Yeah, very disappointing. And Joshua Xerxes.
Zerks, on another day, it could have been very different if had he taken those chances. Um, in the second half, when we actually started putting the ball in, you could see a bit more from him. Actually tested the keeper once or twice. There was one shot in particular, it was sort of outside the 20-yard box, sort of cutting in. But Allison got down low and saved it. Um, so I'd go five for him. I'd go five. But that again is probably generous.
But I'll come back to it again. If Osherman's playing, Rashford has two assists.
Yeah, yeah,
We,
yeah. I'm probably being generous because I am taking into the fact that he's new to the league and whatnot. But yeah, and he's a well as he self-proclaimed 9.5, isn't he? So he's not even a goal scorer like that. He's not.
no, he's more of a Bobby Firmino, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So again, we're just relying. We're going to be relying on Hoyland to be that 20 goal a season striker eventually.
Which I don't think he is. To be fair, I thought we'd be lucky to get 15 apiece from both of these guys as our
Yeah,
forwards this
but
season.
that's, you see, I've heard this point being made a few times. That's good for them individually, but it's not good enough for Man United. As a
Yeah, I
team,
mean,
we
yeah,
need
yeah.
more
As
than
if
that.
we do, but I mean, it would be a start, right? Because we haven't even got that at the moment.
Yeah, we're minus three, as you said already.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
that's the issue.
we have managed just two goals in the first three league games, and one of them was an own goal. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
Uh, and one was a very very late winner against Fulham. So we are struggling badly to score goals, and
Yeah, the Fulham game, as much as we can talk about the chances that we didn't take on another day, that could very easily have just been a draw. We could have dropped points again there.
yeah, this is another thing. This is another pattern under Ten Hag, right?
Hmm.
When we lose badly. When we
Yeah,
win,
yeah.
it is just
It,
about and nothing more.
it's just by the odd goal
Yeah, and
a
that's
lot
why
of
the
the
goal
time.
difference
We've
is
never
bad.
really battered anyone under him, have we? I don't remember too many
No, but we've
just
been battered.
battering. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Way too many times to mention.
And let's remember, under Ten Hag's reign, we've lost 7-0 against Liverpool.
Hmm.
I would hate to look at the aggregate score. Uh,
Yes, yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, even in his first season away from home, the amount of goals we were letting in was crazy. Um, I think in
so
something like in like 6 or 7 games, we let in like 23 goals or something mad.
fucking atrocious.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like, what do you say to
Now
that?
Ten Hag bizarrely substituted the centre back again. I don't know any
Hmm.
other manager who does that. You want a settled back four,
Yeah,
from minute 0 to 90. You don't want to be
yeah.
chopping and changing your back four during a
Hmm.
game. So I don't know, another decision that he often makes that I don't get.
And that's what you need to do in it when you're when you're already down and you're looking for a goal. What you need to do then is to shore things up at the back.
Yeah, sure. A 0-0
Ah,
against Fulham, he brought on two defenders. I
yeah,
just don't get the
yeah.
guy. Um, so I want to ask you
Uh,
for uh,
yeah.
a rating for Toby Collier on his Premier League debut.
All right, so this is somebody that I actually want to be nice to. I thought we did him dirty. This isn't the kind of game that I want to see the kid in. We threw him in absolutely at the deep end, and credit to him, he did what he could. There was one or two things I didn't like, the way he got bullied off the ball by Mo Salah. But again, what am I expecting really from him? In this kind of situation. But overall, I was pleased for him. I thought that young man could hold his head. Not too high, but he can hold his head at least,
So would you give
unlike
him a
the others.
six?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um, yeah, immensely difficult game to come into as a youngster.
very much so. I remember us doing something similar with Hannibal against Liverpool. Remember, and he came on and showed a bit of grit and determination. Also, a little violent streak in him as well. Thought he was going to get sent off.
Which Ralph Rangnick didn't like too much.
No.
But because of how good he was at Birmingham City, Burnley have snapped him up. We've got a
Mhm.
few million for him on add-ons in there as well. So I think it was the right time to move him on.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
recouped our money somewhat, and I think there's a sell on as well. So
yeah,
if he does well, that's good for us.
the biggest positive at the moment is that we recouped over 100 million this summer,
Yeah, yeah.
and our net spend was very low. So this is the way a club should be operating.
Hmm.
Which United haven't done since forever. Um, so Ten Hag, what does he get?
Very poor, very poor. Uh, can we just get a one for attendance for turning up?
We, and Casemiro got a nod because he didn't turn up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Do you know? You have to give him a zero as well, wouldn't I? Really? Like, what can I really say? He just got it
Yeah,
wrong. He just got it wrong from start to finish. Everything was wrong. Uh, yeah,
yeah, horribly wrong.
yeah. About the only thing that he did, which I liked, was actually realizing that uh, had to put an end to chaos. but but again, I mean, it's a problem of his own creation, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, definitely. He seen McTominay as an alternative to Casemiro,
Hmm.
and he doesn't have that anymore. He didn't really want to let him go, and Agarte is not his signing. Really, it's something that he had to agree to, or had to be persuaded on, and then eventually agreed to it.
Mm.
Um, and he's saying that he might not start a game for weeks or even months because he has to build up his fitness because he hasn't started a club match since May.
Mm.
Didn't have a pre-season because he was at the Copa America and he was in team of the
Yeah.
tournament. It's worth mentioning. But he is under enormous pressure now, Ugarte, to be brilliant. United really need him to be good in this system, where
Mm.
there's so much pressure on the number six, and are the expectations just going to be too high? Like if Ten Hag is going to persist with this system, uh, Ugarte is going to have to be an unbelievable player, and I think again the expectations are kind of setting him up the field as well. So,
Hmm.
and then the manager seems like he's just going to gradually introduce him. He's going to make the odd sub appearance, and then he might start a game, 6 weeks down the line, and that's not what Ten Hag needs. If we're going to persist with Casemiro, we're in trouble. And Toby Collier is too young as well. So if Ugarte is not going to start anytime soon, we're going to continue to lose games, in my opinion. Now, we may or may not beat Southampton. You'd like to think that we could, but at the same time, no defeat would shock me nowadays. And we got, I think, we have Palace away coming up as well. It's always a tricky game for United. So
Especially if last season's anything to go by. They did the double over us last season.
yeah, and 5-0 in aggregate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's disgusting stuff. And they've
And
not had the best of starts this season either. So you would think they would be there for the taking, but then the way we play, every
and
game's a
after that,
challenge.
I think we've got Tottenham and Aston Villa.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not going to get any easier for Ten Hag.
Nope.
And there are very few easy games in the Premier League now because
Hmm.
you know, uh, you know most Premier League teams. that have established themselves have an awful lot of money to spend, and the TV rights have created a lot of equality in the Premier League, if you like. So, and teams don't have to sell their best players to the big clubs anymore. So it's
Hmm.
become more difficult. Uh, there's less of a gap between the top sides and the middle order sides. Now, the teams that tend to be well off the top sides or the newly promoted teams, like for example, the three newly promoted teams last season went down, and that could easily happen again. But outside of that, every game is difficult. And
Yeah.
if we're set up and if we're set up badly by Ten Hag and these bizarre formations and crap tactics, we can lose to anyone really, but definitely 16 out of the 20 teams. So you can talk about Villa and Tottenham coming up, but we could easily lose to Southampton and Crystal Palace as well. So, and we've got FC20 in the Europa League, and we also got an away trip to Porto in the Europa League as well. And, I think Barnsley
Mm-hmm.
in the League Cup. So those are the fixtures between this international break and the next one. And Ten Hag needs to have a good 4 or 5 weeks there. If there are two more Premier League defeats in that period, he is he's on the brink, isn't he?
He's under yeah, he's under huge pressure. He's under huge pressure. Uh, I think they'll probably try and make it to Christmas at least though before looking at it.
But my frustration is that when you wait to Christmas, your season is over, it's done.
Mm,
Do you see if you were really ruthless and you got rid of him now, you can still
hmm.
rescue the season. You know, now people may not like Thomas Tuchel, but if you brought him in right now, there's a chance if this clicked that this could end up being a brilliant season where we're finished near the top spots in the league. But if you wait to Christmas to make a change, the season's already over. That would be my
Mm.
frustration with it. I have lost complete faith in the manager. He is not going to turn the ship
I mean,
around.
you were sort of on the brink even last season towards the end, weren't you? So yeah.
Yeah, so I would not be upset by Ten Hag being sacked at any stage, really, even now,
Mm.
because I just don't believe in the man anymore. And I feel that he's not going to turn the ship around. This is the Titanic under Ten Hag. We are sinking fast, and he is not the right man for the job. And if it was me, I would make the change now. But I'm realistic, and I know they'll give him at least to the next international break to see how it goes.
Hmm.
And he needs wins, and he needs them now. Otherwise, during one of these international breaks in October or November, they're going to get rid of him if things do not improve drastically. Um, if we're sitting here in the November international break and United are sitting on 6 league defeats, they've lost 2 Europa League games, they're out of the League Cup, he's gone. Absolutely, 100%. Uh, yeah, and that's the way it's going at the moment. Uh, yeah, and he looks like a man that's under pressure in these press conferences. He's biting back at journalists. He's arguing with them. He's talking about his record of winning trophies. See Mourinho do that as well when he was under pressure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
The
don't
one
see
thing
this.
with Mourinho, though, I mean, he
y-
had titles and all the top accolades to
Absolutely,
back up his arrogance.
he did. Yeah, Ten Hag has not won a league title outside of Holland,
Yeah.
and yeah, so Frank de Boer won 4 league titles at Ajax, even more than Ten Hag. So that doesn't make you a great manager.
Mm.
To me, he looks like a cup manager, like a Rafael Benitez in
Hmm.
England, someone who can win cups,
I
but
mean, even
not
Rafa, I mean, he pulled off the ultimate trophy, didn't he? Yeah.
the Champions League. But
Yeah. Yeah.
he was never. I know he got close maybe on one occasion in 2009, but that what Liverpool lacked under Benitez was consistency, and that's what I see with Ten Hag now. And I don't see a United team under Ten Hag ever being consistent. I just don't.
Mm.
Just don't see it. They'll pick up results here and there. They'll win big games. They'll win cup matches, and Ten Hag would brag about it. But they'll never go on like a 10-game winning run in the league. It just won't happen. So
Hmm.
this is why I think that he will be gone between now and Christmas. Uh, don't think it's going to happen now, but I think at some point between now and Christmas, we will see the end of Ten Hag's reign at Old Trafford, and that unfortunately means that it's another season lost, and we're starting again, really. But I suppose what's different this time is that the we've got a competent football structure, and they're signing players and not the manager.
Hmm.
So there should be continuity there when when we do bring in a new coach. The same way as what Liverpool have had. Klopp has left, and it's just business as usual with the new manager. So who's able to make it work with the players that are already there. So hopefully
Hmm.
that's what United will be able to do as well. Um,
Yeah, and a lot has been made as well of their, supposed failed transfer window. But I just think they're biding their time, to be honest. You know, as much as fans might be disappointed, you never want to just go and make signings to appease fans. If the right player is not available, you might as well take your time until you identify the next one.
yeah, absolutely. I do believe in the long run, we are going to be competitive at the top of the league in the next few years under this structure. But I don't think that Ten Hag is going to be part of that
Mm.
whenever we do succeed. That's just my humble opinion. So thanks to everybody for joining us on the live show today. Um, Please, everybody, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the Glory Glory Man United podcast, and get more of your thoughts in retrospectively, and I will reply to many of those as possible. And thanks for joining us live on YouTube, and hello to everybody who's listening on Apple or Spotify. And we shall return after the Southampton game. So thanks as always, Brush.
You're welcome. No worries. Hopefully, what do you know? What the international breaks come at a nice time for me. So we can enjoy some time away from United and hopefully refresh our batteries and come back to more positive news in the next edition.
Yeah, hopefully.